All right, let's begin. So 5-4A, sum and difference formulas. Now, I'm not going to require you to memorize these formulas. Okay, that's why you have your reference sheet. You'll be allowed to use that on any other assessment that I'm giving in this chapter. Okay, so I'm not having you memorize it. However, do we need to be able to use it? Yes. All right. This is the way we do it. When we have an addition or subtraction going on to make up an angle, we use different formulas. All right. Now, I never use these tangent formulas. Why? Why don't I ever use the tangent ones? Okay. If we find sine and cosine, what is tangent? Sine over cosine. And that's the way that we're going to do them. All right, so I'm actually just going to do sine over cosine, even though that's not the way CalcChat's going to do it. Has everybody heard me? All right. So I'm going to find the exact value of sine of pi over 12. I'm going to find the exact value of sine of pi over 12 without a calculator. Well, is pi over 12 on my unit circle? No, daggone it. I don't know how to do it then. We're done. We're done. It's on my unit circle. No, I'm not going to make a triangle either. Not this time. What do we know on our unit circle? We know pi over 6. Good. What else do we know? Pi over, can we go in order? Pi over 4, right? And what else? Pi over 3 and pi over 2. And we know those angles, true? Now, I have this as a denominator of 12. So let's put them in common denominators of 12. So what is pi over 6? 2 pi over 12. And what's pi over 4? 3 pi over 12. What's pi over 3? 4 pi over 12. What's pi over 2? 6 pi over 12. Now, I need to use those somehow to get to pi over 12. Now, you can do this many ways to Tampa. It doesn't have to be an exact way that McKinley does it or Mariah does it. They could do it different and still arrive to the same answer. So, how can we get to pi over 12 using some of these? Could I subtract them? Which ones could I subtract? 3 pi over 12 and 2 pi over 12. All right? So that's basically saying sine of pi over 4 minus pi over 6. Is that 3 pi over 12 minus 2 pi over 12 would give me pi over 12. True? So I'm actually going to use that. And I'm going to call this pi over 4 my u. And I'm going to call this pi over 6 my v. So which formula does it look like I'm going to be using? Un, deux, trois, or quatre? Deux. All right. That's French for 2. All right. So I'm going to use this second one. So now I'm just going to use my little formula. So now I have sine of my u, which is pi over 4, and then cosine of pi over 6. And then minus cosine of pi over 4, and then sine of pi over 6. All right? And now we know those are in our unit circle, so now we're ready to go. So what is the sine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. And then what's the cosine of pi over 6? Square root 3 over 2. Minus, what's the cosine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. And then what's the sine of pi over 6? 1/2. So now we multiply together. So square root 2 over 2 times square root 3 over 2 is square root 6 over 4. Minus square root 2 over 2 times 1/2 is square root 2 over 4. So I end up with just square root 6 minus square root 2 over 4. All right. And that is sine of pi over 12 is 0.2588. This is the square root 6 minus square root 2 over 4 is 0.2588. All right. Pretty cool. 75 degrees. I have cosine 75 degrees. Well, Mr. Flick, we never worked in degree mode. We always did radians. True that. All right. However, what is pi over 6? 30 degrees. All right. What's pi over 4? 45 degrees. All right. Let's keep going just for this. What's pi over 3? 60 degrees. All right. And then pi over 2 would end up being 90 degrees. All right. So what's like 5 pi over 3? What would 5 pi over 3 be? Pi over 3 is 60. 5 times pi over 3 would be what? 300. All right. So if you need to know it, well, one way to do it is like multiply by 180 divided by pi, right? Or multiply by pi divided by 180, depending on which way we're going with it. All right. But those are our common ones that we can do. Now, cosine is 75 degrees. Can I add or subtract anything of these to get to 75? Yeah, how could I do it? Add pi over 6 and pi over 4. So this is the same thing as cosine of pi over 6 plus pi over 4. All right, which is the same thing as like 30 plus 45, right? However, we're more accustomed to be in radian mode because that's more useful in mathematics. All right, so which one am I using? Am I using un deux, trois, quatre? Trois. I'm using trois. All right, so let's write it out. So this is going to be my u, that one's going to be my v. So now I have cosine of pi over 6 times cosine of pi over 4 minus sine of pi over 6 and then sine of pi over 4. So now I'm ready to use my unit circle. So what's the cosine of pi over 6? Square root 3 over 2. What's the cosine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. What's the sine of pi over 6? 1/2. What's the sine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. So when we multiply together, I get square root 2 or square root 3 over 2 times square root 2 over 2, which is square root 6 over 4 minus square root 2 over 4, which happens to be square root 6 minus square root 2 all over 4. Was that one? So this one, I need to find sine of u plus v. I need to find sine of u plus v, and I'm given lots of restrictions. So this first one, I have sine of u is equal to 4/5, where I'm in between 0 and pi over 2. Well, what does that 0 to pi over 2 mean? Where am I going to draw this triangle? In the what? In the first quadrant. That's what that means. All right. And then this next one, I have cosine of v is equal to negative 12 over 13, where it's in between pi over 2 and pi. So what does that constraint mean? It's in the second quadrant. First one, I have sine of u equals 4/5. So I'm going to draw my u triangle. Now, what quadrant am I going to draw my u triangle in? The first quadrant. So I'm going to draw it in my first quadrant right there. So what is sine? Opposite over hypotenuse. So my opposite is 4. My hypotenuse is 5. What's my adjacent? 3. Is it 3 or negative 3? 3. Why is it just positive 3? Because it moved to the right. It moved to the right. All right. And then let's draw my V triangle. So my V triangle is in the what quadrant? Second quadrant. So it's going to be drawn in the second quadrant right there. Well, cosine is what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So my adjacent is 12. My hypotenuse is 13. Well, 12 should give me a what, though? A negative. Why is it a negative? Because it moved left. All right. What's my other side? 5. 5. Good. All right. It is a Babylonian triple. All right. However, let's say we didn't know it. So we could say x squared is plus 12 squared is equal to 13 squared, right? 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. I subtract them and I get x squared is equal to 25. X is equal to 5. Why is it positive 5 though? Because it moved up. All right. That's why it's positive. So which one am I using now? Which formula? The first one. I'm going to use the first one. So let's write out the first one. So now I have sine of u, and then cosine of v, plus cosine of u, and then sine of v. All right. I just like to rewrite it. I think it cuts down on the amount of mistakes you guys have. So, sine of u. Well, if I look at my u triangle, what is the sine of my u triangle? 4/5. And then cosine of my v triangle. What's the cosine of my v triangle? Negative 12/13. Plus, what is the cosine of my u triangle? 3/5. And then times, what's the sine of my v triangle? 5/13. And now we just have to do a little bit of math. All right, so what's 4 times negative 12? Negative 48. And then 5 times 13 is 65. And then plus, what's 3 times 5? 15. And then 5 times 13 is? Wow, it gave you just common denominators. That's so nice. All right, and what do we get? Negative 33/65. All right, I'd like you to write these out, and then we're going to do one of them together. So really, instead of 10 problems you're going to do 9, because we're going to do one together. We're going to do the sine, cosine, and tangent of 255 degrees. Now, this one's kind of nice because it already gives me what 255 degrees would be broken down to. So it's 300 degrees minus 45 degrees. All right. However, you're not usually accustomed to thinking of 300 degrees or 45 degrees. Let's think about it in radian mode. So what could we do? We think of that as 5 pi over 3. Good. All right, so this is 5 pi over 3, and then minus pi over 4. All right. So we're going to find the sine of 5 pi over 3 minus pi over 4, which is basically saying the sine of 255 degrees. Well, which one would I be looking at? Un, deux, trois, or cat on my reference sheet? Trois. No, deux. I'm looking at deux. All right. So this is my u and this is my v. All right. So I'd have sine of 5 pi over 3, and then cosine of pi over 4, and then minus cosine of 5 pi over 3, and then sine of pi over 4. All right, so now I'm just going to need to know my unit circle. Wow, I never thought that unit circle would go. It's not going away. All right, so what's the sine of 5 pi over 3? Negative square root 3 over 2. And then what's the cosine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. And then minus, what's the cosine of 5 pi over 3? 1/2. And then square root 2 over 2. And now we just got to do a little bit of math. And what do we get? Negative square root 6 minus square root 2 all over 4. Okay? All right, so there's the sine of it. And now we're going to do what? The cosine. So now we're going to do cosine. So now we're going to do cosine of 5 pi over 3 minus pi over 4. So again, I would highly suggest you designate your u's and your v's. So, which one am I going to be working with? Un, deux, trois, or cat? Cat. All right. So now I end up having cosine of 5 pi over 3. And then cosine of pi over 4. And then plus, and then sine of pi over 4. Okay, you guys just see how we're using the reference sheet? Okay, All right. So then, what is the cosine of 5 pi over 3? 1/2. What's the cosine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. And then plus, what's the sine of 5 pi over 3? Negative square root 3 over 2. And then sine of pi over 4? Square root 2 over 2. All right. And so when we do a little bit of math, we end up with square root 2 over 4, and then minus square root 6 over 4. All right. Now, tangent, I differ. I differ on tangent for CalcChat, and I don't think you need to do that much work, honestly. So tangent of 5 pi over 3 minus pi over 4. I don't actually use the reference sheet. I don't think it's useful. I really don't. How would I do it? Just put sine over cosine. But what happens here? The 4's do what? The 4's cancel out. So we end up with just what? Negative square root 6 minus square root 2 over square root 2 minus square root 6. Is that the answer that's going to be on CalcChat? It's not. However, is the answer on CalcChat going to be equivalent to that? Yes. And I'm just going to leave it just like that. Is everybody hearing me? Okay. All right.